Welcome to Celtics Stuff Live on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider of audio and video coverage for the Boston Celtics. Justin and John here, and things have been going pretty well, John. Feeling all right now. Feeling all right. 3-game winning streak, 7 of their last 10. Nice smackdown of the Lakers. LeBron apparently so pissed off that he's got to go around punching Isaiah Stewart in the face. But, hey, all right. And, it feels a lot better. And I think the big question mark against Houston, which you can decide for yourselves if you think the Houston as an opponent is a good test of this, was can we bring, Brown and, to an extent Williams back into that double big lineup and still see the ball movement and, I don't think I had any question about the defense, but definitely the ball movement and the finding the open shooter and Tatum's aggressiveness, because, some of that aggressiveness sometimes comes from next man up kind of syndrome. Like, hey, we need somebody to do this. So is that going to continue? So I guess my question for you, John, is did Houston answer that question for you, or do you kind of want to see a higher quality opponent?
No.
Yeah, no way, right?
How can anybody say that, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that the most impressive thing about this game against Houston is that it's one more game that they've done things the right way.
Yeah. It came out in the second half and just blew it out, right? Rest for everybody, like that. Those doing what you're supposed to do against significantly lower quality opponents is critical to, guys staying healthy. And that's clearly going to be an issue again this year.
But I think my whole thing is like, it's about young teams consistently knowing what they have to do to win basketball games. To me, that's what this team is really learning about this season. It's about, how do I do it? How do I do it well? And how do I keep doing it over and over and over again? And that was the lesson of last year that they never figured out. They never figured out how to do it consistently. They never figured out how to give the extra effort consistently. They never had anything they could lean on. They'd win a game, a great game, and then the next game you'd think, okay, we're going to build off of it, and it'd be like the most demoralizing thing that you'd seen that month. That was the pattern, for the last 12 months. And after those first 7 games, when they were 2-5, I think the defense was an issue. I think I would say I was worried in that they hadn't shown anything of value at that point. And then there was that period where, they're starting to defend, but the offense still really wasn't quite what it needed to be. And look, I don't think it's fixed. I think the offense still has a ways to go. But if they can defend like this, they're going to be in a lot of games against a lot of teams. I think, to me, the offense is the biggest question. I think that's why people are so focused on it, which somewhat undersells how great the defense has been. But the offense, the potential growth of the offense is what I think. I'm not saying they're going to be the Warriors of 15-16, but they have much higher to go with the players and the pieces they have available to them.
Well, they were finding open shooters. It's just the open shooter wasn't knocking down the shot. And that might plague them for an entire season. It might be great one night and bad another night. You never know how that's going to play out, because I saw you kind of posting on Twitter over the last week, and the question mark being, without regular minutes, how can we expect young guys to hit open shots? And I think that's a fair question. At the same time, you've got some vets on this team that are there to also build, towards the postseason, et cetera. But you almost think you want the younger players to get a little bit more run, and then the vets are the ones that end up, filling in when you really need them in the postseason. But then if you do that, do they ever find their role? One person I think that has really figured it all out is Schroeder. I mean, it's such a perfect fit to know that if Jaylen Brown's got to sit out some games, that he can come in and contribute missing offense. And that when Jaylen comes back, he can still go to the bench and still contribute to the team and contribute offense and, and be in that role. And that's what you get from a veteran that you don't get from the younger rookies. In and out of the starting lineup, still serving a purpose, raising their role and scoring load when required, but not having to have it to still be good in a lesser role or coming back off the bench. That was a great pickup. There's going to, by the end of this season, we're all going to be like, that was a big key. And then we're not going to be able to keep him. And we're going to be wondering a little bit about how they fill that next year. Gown on it. Book it.
I think you can say that he rescued the season. He was a shot. He has been a shot in the arm when they desperately needed it. Without Jaylen Brown in the lineup the last, week to 2 weeks.
So. Yeah.
How many of those games did they win without Dennis Schroeder? Not many, not many at all. And I'm not saying, I don't think that necessarily he's, I wouldn't even put him in the category of like a great player or someone who's been just, I think there have been players who have been more indispensable than he, that aren't named Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown on this roster, but he has been so important to complement. And I think that's the piece of why Schroeder's been important here. He complements what the other guys need, what they don't do. Everyone talks about Rondo. I don't see Rondo when I see him. I see Terry Rozier.
I see Rondo in physical appearance, but not in play style. I see what you're saying Terry. About.
He's got that.
No. I mean, literally, when he had the headband on.
Oh, yeah.
You looked at him and thought, oh, is Rondo on the floor? I mean, literally, physically. But yeah, totally. The Terry Rozier in terms of style of play. Yep. Slashing, attacking the basket. Sometimes has the ball maybe longer than he should, but seems to make the play anyway. Right? That's where you're going.
Does some scrappy things defensively. Doesn't give up, certainly. The challenge is, I think Brian Robb had a report or mentioned somewhere that apparently the Celtics, there's mutual interest to bring him back. I always think that's funny. Hey, you're playing great. We think you should stay here with us. Hey, I kind of like it here. I'd kind of like to stay. Great. If
let's
only
talk
that's
numbers.
All it took.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, right. The minute we start talking numbers,
does Al Horford leave if that happens? Come on, it's kind of silly. But I think he what he can do is something nobody else on this roster can. And it's a huge benefit to have him be able to plug in a player of his caliber who can get by whoever is guarding him at any point in time. Now, I'd love to cut down the turnovers. I'd love to get some of the turnovers turned down a little bit. But the good thing is that he's surrounded by guys that aren't so turnover prone. And we should also mention that Marcus Smart has been playing his ball.
That was such
a
logical next step in the conversation. It's exactly where I was headed. Mm-hmm. He got a lot of criticism as usual, including from me.
Me too. I'm with you. Yeah, I'll put my hand up.
Just wasn't there. And he had kind of a frustrating year last year too. So it's not like it just popped up out of the blue to start this year. There were definitely some criticism. He was definitely due some criticism for the way he played last season as well. Mm-hmm. But you're right. This stretch of time, as much as Schroeder was a shot in the arm, Smart kind of got this big question mark about speaking up and at the team dinner, and was it the right thing in the media? But it did seem to light a fire. Here's the answer to that question every single time. Did it work or did it not work? And if it didn't work, do they keep doing it? Because that's the answer to the question. Everybody, especially Smart, has earned the right to try that once, and it could have backfired, and maybe they heal and move on. But if he tried it again after he did that the one time and it didn't work, then he's a cancer. And it literally, that's basically, like that's how it works, because the team will turn on him, right? That's, hey, we're not listening to you anymore. So now your fiery personality is a problem. But because he did it and it worked, when the time's right, if he's got to speak up again, they're going to listen to him, because the results are, proof that he made he lit the fire that needed to be lit.
I would say I'm maybe not quite as far as you are on that, but I definitely think that he.
When you say not as far, you're just saying you're not as okay with him.
No,
media, or you just don't think you don't think that was as responsible for the turnaround. Like you're gonna shower some credit to Horford instead, and
no,
a little bit.
I guess what I'm saying is I think he took a lot of heat for being so bold to say that. I think that we're really soft if that's really being bold,
right?
He's like, hey, it's something we're working on, and Jalen and Jayson need to learn how to pass more, and it's something we're trying to get better at. And it was true. And people are like, oh, shot across the bow. And like sports radio lost its mind for like 3 weeks or whatever. I mean, it really wasn't that bad. He said they got to pass the ball more. They do. The problem is the people who hate Smart said, oh, he wants to shoot more. It's all about him. And that wasn't the point. The point was this is about Tatum and Brown learning how to lead a team. And offensively, it's hard to learn how to lead a team. And he's like, hey, we're working on that. It didn't seem like it was a negative thing. It was definitely a shot. It was definitely like, hey, we got to get better at this. It sucks to stand there in the corner and the ball's not moving.
And then they did it. Well, at least Tatum did while Brown was out. And then people couldn't hit the open shot when they were sitting in the corner. So then that's how that you got to give the team and Tatum and others a lot of credit for sticking with the plan, even when they were missing those shots, because it's incredibly frustrating to feel like you're making the adjustment. And even if you look at the way the team started, I feel like Tatum was overpassing, over deferring at the very early going. And he was struggling with his shot at the same time. So how frustrating is it to not be able to hit your shot at the same time you're working on distributing the ball and deferring to others and trying to draw the double and the attention, and then they can't hit it either. I'm glad they pulled out of that as fast as they did, because that could have been just an absolute cyclone of mental hell for this team if that didn't get recovered fast.
Well, and let's also, so I think that they were pulling, the defense was somewhat pulling them out of the malaise, right? I think we agree there that they figured out the defensive end. There was a lot of effort put into that from the coaching staff side of it, and the team kind of responded. But then offensively, they were awful, right? And so the last few days, the last week or so, it seems as though that the attention has really gone to that end of it. But let me also give Jayson Tatum some credit too, because that I was pretty critical after, let's see, the Laker game. He was pretty good, but I would say the Atlanta game, I was like, not so great. It was one of those games where he played great, but nobody else was there. I gotta pull up the box score, but basically,
I hate losing to Atlanta too. By the way,
me too.
It's a real pisser.
I mean, he was 12 for 22, 5 for 12 from 3. He had 6 free throws, 34 points, 5 assists, 9 rebounds. I mean, that was kind of like the emblematic version of what you were saying, which was he's trusting everybody and they're failing him.
Right.
Game. That was kind of like the high point of that. But he didn't get in his own feelings the next game when they go to play the Lakers. He starts talking about how, look, I was a Laker fan, but not anymore. And he played with a passion in that game against LA that was pretty uncommon. When Russell was in the building, Paul Pierce was in the building.
I was just going to make that connection. That Pierce connection is so critical to that.
Is that it? Is that why?
Yeah, for sure.
Did that
because Pierce is from Inglewood. I mean, and they've been comparing him to Pierce to some extent, and the parallels. And I'm not sure that their game is really all that parallel, but the fact that they keep bringing that up, as far as, Paul was not KG. I think he was far more enigmatic than Tatum. Tatum is still more quiet than Paul was. Paul still had a magnanimous personality. It's just in contrast to KG, it didn't look
everyone
so larger than life anymore, right. Exactly. And so, with that in mind, there's some parallel there, I guess, but they've been making it, and definitely the growing up as a Laker fan and what it takes. Guaranteed Paul talked to Tatum about that, and Tatum, being the big fan of Kobe as he was, I'm not saying that, I'm not even insinuating on the slightest level that he hated becoming a Celtic or anything like that. But what I am saying is, if that's the team you grew up loving, one of your most favorite players, a guy you worked out with till nearly the day he died, who was a mentor to you, played for the Lakers is pretty much his whole career, other than he was in a Hornets jersey for a very short period of time. If you have a love for that team that way, there's a part of you that almost has to embrace the hatred of that team the same way Paul Pierce did, to really rise to a certain level. And we can all go back to when he dunked on LeBron, if you remember, a couple of years back.
Hard to forget.
And there's a little, I don't know if there's a he loves Kobe, or there's a Kobe versus LeBron thing, or, I don't know if maybe him and LeBron are total buddies. I have no idea. But there's definitely something about dunking on the king and punking on the king whenever you get a chance that matters. It's a rite of passage to some extent here. And I there's a part of me that kind of looks at that and says, it's a LeBron thing. It's a Lakers thing. It's a Paul Pierce influence thing. It's the rivalry. It's embracing it. And honestly, all the hype leading up to that game, he probably got swept up in it a little bit. And it finally really meant something to him in a different way.
I mean, I just think that seems more likely, right, than to somehow suggest that, he was upset about the I mean, it seemed like it just felt like a different game. It felt like he knew that game needed more of him. And that's the type of, so I've always felt like he loves shooting. He loves scoring the ball. He loves being the guy who makes the big play, who hits the big shot. I think he, like Paul, he loves that, right?
Absolutely.
But I don't know that a lot of times that he feels what's needed and kind of responds to that. Like there's an aura, there's a sense, there's a feeling that basketball players who feel the game know, okay, this is what this team needs right now, right? That's something that I feel like a guy like Smart or like Horford, just really cerebral kind of players get. And that's just never been his thing. And that's why I kind of go back to that Spurs game from last year when he got 60, where it was like he knew he had to bring a different level, a different type of energy to that game. And he did. And I thought that Laker game really was kind of the first time since that I had seen oh yeah, okay, this is what it is. And it's like he's tapping into that a little bit. I saw a little bit of that tonight, honestly.
Well, to really
I think I think this is him figuring out what it takes to be
the next level, the transcendent player. Yes.
I'm excited. It's more than just hitting your shots. It's more than just you have to give that oomph. You got to give that oomph.
It's not just
the time
giving
you need it
too. It's dominating the game. It's realizing that you're the best player on the floor,
not just hitting shots.
in every facet. Exactly.
Right.
In every facet of the game, you can beat everybody and dominate.
Tatum. Let's talk about Tatum. We were kind of weaving back into that, and he's kicking ass and looking great and all that. And I think where he's going, right? He's on the ascendancy. He's figuring out the feel part of the game. The shooting. This is what was kind of driving me crazy. There was a lot of people, and I was having this conversation. I felt like I kept saying the same thing, and people kept telling me, well, once he starts hitting shots, oh, well, that'll fix everything. And like, to me, like, that's like the complete wrong approach. If that's how he's looking at it, he's in trouble.
Yeah, because he's just going to sit around trying to make shots.
Right. That's not it, right? It's about doing the oomph. It's doing the extra. It's going to get that extra rebound. It's going around and stepping up and trying to contest at the rim when you could just stand and watch the guy lay it in. Those are the types of plays where you're bringing that level of competitive fire to it that really fires up the other guys.
But even when he's finishing around the rim now, it's not lay-ins, it's dunks. Like he's just
sure.
But
I don't worry about him there.
No, I get it, but it's emblematic of the fire is what I get it. Yeah, you could go ahead and lay it in, no big deal.
Right.
That's not the point I'm making. I'm making that is all part of the ferocious nature and just I'm gonna own this. I'm gonna let you know that I'm the dominant alpha. And that's where all those other pieces of the game come into play. And so, you know, there's a little bit of the KG in that, but it's not coming out in his personality. But that's KG tried to alpha everybody every minute he was on the floor and in practice.
And that's never going to be that's not Tatum. That's not who he is.
No, not in the personality, but it has to be in the play.
I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know anybody could be like that. You could.
No. The mentality of
even
being the dominant player in every facet of the game while you're on the floor. Even if you're not, I'm not saying he necessarily can do it the way KG did it, but you have to have that mentality.
I know what you're saying. I get it. I get what you're saying. And I think you're right that bringing that into those areas, KG just was on another level that he has to go in that vein. Let's say that he has to follow that vein. I just don't know he can reach the heights that guy. You can look at NBA history. There may be nobody like him.
Did you watch it? Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, do you not have Showtime? Is that why? No, you don't have Showtime, or no, that's not why. Do you have YouTube TV?
False?
Yes.
See,
you have YouTube TV?
Yeah.
So just pay for the $10 for 1 month.
No, I don't want to pay for that. I'm cheap.
I'm telling you right now, if you don't watch Anything Is Possible, you're gonna regret it. It's worth $10.
Okay.
It's better than watching him in the Adam Sandler movie Uncut Gems. By far.
Okay.
So if you enjoyed Uncut Gems and you were willing to rent it for $6 or whatever, you might as well pay $10 and watch Anything Is Possible. It's awesome.
All right. Well,
dude, this is how awesome it is. It's a 2-hour show on Showtime.
Yeah.
I got an hour and 20 minutes into it and got so jacked up that I paused it and went for a 60-minute run outside and came back and watched the rest.
Wow.
Yeah, I got jacked up. I was like, that's my boy, KG.
Wow.
Yeah, at 8 o'clock at night. At 8 o'clock at night. I started it a little bit before 7, and at 8 o'clock, I was like, damn, I'm lazy. And I did. I went for a run and watched the last 40 minutes when I got back. No joke. Saturday night.
Oh my gosh. If I went out for a run at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, my wife would be saying, anything is possible.
My wife was out. I was home alone. So I'm just telling you, man, it's awesome.
I believe it.
I don't even want to spoil it.
All right,
for
let's
you,
not spoil it then. I
will just tell you this.
Yeah.
You really get like a vibe of like it's real. There's a moment where he's got the mic coming down. He's so genuine. That's what I love about this guy. Like, even when he's doing it, he's doing it for show, but it's him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still, even when he's doing the show, it's not a caricature.
Yeah, he's not faking
so
it.
Clear. Yeah. And he's got this mic, it's hanging from the ceiling in this one section. And he's just doing his thing where he's like reliving the moment. You can almost see like that he's actually in the moment, like he teleported to the moment, and he's like up to the mic, just him, just raw, just dude. I get chills. I get chills. He's such a motivator. Like, I friggin' love that guy. That's all I'll say. You gotta watch it.
Did you see the comment that Tatum had before the Laker game? Did you see that? Or maybe
I might have missed it. No, I think I missed it.
He said, actually, he tweeted it. I should get it right here.
Yeah, get it exact. We've got 13 minutes for you to find this tweet.
Yeah, he had. I should get this right. He said, "Okay, this is to your."
That was fast.
This is your deal. He says, "KG documentary was fire emoji. Stole game from the truth, but ticket was my favorite Celtic."
Yeah, I did see that tweet.
Yeah,
I did see it, but it was the stole game from the truth. So he's definitely a little bit of that step back action, right?
Oh, yeah, but
but he's more of a sidestep than what Paul did. He's more of the side,
but the sidestep wasn't even a thing really back in in Paul's.
No. I'm just saying he said stole game from Paul, but if you really think about it, like Paul is more of a fade. Like, it's just not the same kind of thing. It's similar, but Paul's is just like a light to the side and then fade, right? And then Tatum's is like all side and slight fade.
Well, I think he's got the curls, so I'm not sure how much of a fade he's got.
Dude.
Sorry.
Dude.
But I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and I think it's been interesting. Paul's been in the news a lot lately too, talking about, one, how the Celtics should never break up Tatum and Brown, and two, really support for those guys and saying, look, it's hard to lead, but those guys now's the time they have to start to grow and change, just as he did. But as he says, I was a lot older when I had to make that adjustment, when Ray and KG came in. And I think what he's saying is that was dependent upon talent coming in and joining me, not me changing. The thing that I would say, though, he doesn't really acknowledge how he changed as a player when Doc came in. And that's to me, this isn't the bring KG and bring Ray Allen part and let's win a championship phase for Brown and Tatum. This is the I've got to learn how I fit into everybody else piece, which is what he ran into when Doc showed up. The 0405, kind of evolution of Paul Pierce. That's the piece where becoming, more efficient as a player and becoming more, that's where I think those guys are right now. And I think they could win a lot sooner, and they have been more successful than Paul was, even though he went to a conference finals, they've been more successful than Paul Pierce was, surely, in their earlier careers.
Yeah, but they were also surrounded by senior talent in a way that Paul never was. I mean, he was paired with Antoine, and they brought in Kenny and Rodney Rogers, but
oh my God,
not at all the same thing.
On that note, let me there on. I don't know if you saw this tweet I had on Saturday afternoon. I spent a good part watching a game
Oh,
from
yes.
2017 against the Dallas Mavericks. This was in the midst of that early season winning streak after
Yeah, I remember you said because
Hayward.
there's this point guard I don't want to talk about on here. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And man, the talent. I mean, it was crazy. It was like,
Ah,
Rozier is like the ninth man coming off the bench, right? And the thing was, it was so great. The team was so good. I mean, you're
yeah.
bringing Baines in off the bench. You're bringing in Smart off the bench. You're bringing in Rozier off the bench. You started Mook Morris. You've got, I mean, and here's the coup de grace, the whole thing. That point guard that I don't want to mention was so freaking good. I mean, picking his spots, setting other guys up, and then taking over when he needed to take over. I mean, it was so sad. It was such a sad state of affairs because,
For those of you not watching on video, John literally almost hit his head off the table.
It's just it's so
You're
sad.
distraught. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
For the criticism of Danny,
it's
really frustrating. Yeah, because
that's the thing.
The pieces have been there. Like the way that they rebuilt that since the day they traded for Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
It's just this weird ass curse that they did not have more success.
It was all there for them. I mean, it was all there for them, right, laid out. And, there's a number of reasons for it. Bad luck, bad injury luck. But that guy, man, they really screwed it up because they could have been, they could have been amazing. But alas, what are you going to do? You move on. But man, that was heartbreaking almost to watch because I could transport myself back to watching that game 5 years ago and what I was feeling and be like, oh my gosh, maybe they don't need Hayward. Maybe they've got a chance. And I don't think I knew how close they were at that point,
Yeah.
But
look at what they did after Kyrie was out. I mean, that was
right.
such a phenomenal year. And like I'm remembering back to Terry Rozier in a game, I think it was in March, I guess, against Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit a last game winner and Horford made this huge play. I think Horford tied it up and then Terry won it or something like that. I mean, I was at that game, but it was just you just watch these guys after they got decimated and none of the veterans were on that club and they were just still going. And honestly, that would have all been fine.
Yeah.
If Hayward and Kyrie had not gotten injured, I think those guys would have stayed in their roles. And yes, Terry would have gone on because they just wouldn't have been able to afford him, right. With the way it was playing out. That would have ended up the same way. But I don't think the issues of the following season would have been as bad if they didn't taste so much success without the veterans. Because then these young guys, to some extent, had to have felt like they were being held back. Had to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a killer. It was a killer.
It was a killer. It was a killer because they had it all set up for them. I mean, it was all right there. And even if you want to say Kyrie was the only one there, I mean, to me, losing Kyrie, because remember that, right? Like that was hospital Celtics, right?
Yeah.
And they get to that late season and they lose Kyrie and they go on a big winning streak. And you're like, okay, well, this is like dead cat bounce, like this is just like, okay, well, they're doing great for a little bit. And then of course they kept rolling.
Yeah. And next thing you know, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Exactly. Yeah. Minutes away from being in the finals, and it just felt like they were
one piece away.
They were one piece away. And they had two all-stars sitting in street clothes on their bench. And you're like, it's all right there. But if you're Tatum and you're Brown and you're leading this effort, you're thinking you're there. And the problem is, and that's kind of the thing that we see now, is that you have to be humbled. You have to be like, okay, well, I'm not there. I'm not at this place yet. I'm not yet, I need to work to get to this point. And I think Tatum and Brown have had to go through those bumpy stretches here over the last 12 months to say, okay, well, I do need to improve. There are things I need to do to get our team to this point, and it's on me to do it. At that point,
I hope they keep them together.
The train wheels were still on at that point. And I don't think they really saw how much they needed to do to become the players they think they can be. And that's why this whole, everyone lauds the young players, and rightly so, but the truly great players are the vets. I mean, we pumped up the tires up of a Kevin Durant when he was 23, 24, 25, but he's a better player now than he was then. There's more press and more highlights on Sports Center when he's 23, 24, 25, but he's better now as a 31-year-old, 32-year-old, and that's the funny thing about this league. We talk about the potential of what a guy is, but if you want the winner,
and showcase him before he's there.
Exactly. Which pumps up his head, which then causes potentially for him to lose his way. And that's the kind of
only to find their way again.
You hope.
Yeah. Well, I'm speaking about a specific player, only to find their way again and then lose their way again, a la Ray Allen.
Ray.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap up the show, so I don't know if we can go down the Ray path.
You really. Well, they play. Let's look ahead though. Let's
all right, let's do a look ahead and then call it. Yep.
Let's look ahead because Nets, man, Wednesday, the Thanksgiving
3 games
Nets.
behind. 3 games behind.
Well,
that's it. They're 3 games out, I should say.
Of first place.
Yeah. Yep.
3 games out of first place.
Almost 20 games into the year, which is the barometer, right? Which puts them at 44, 45 wins right now is what they're on pace for, I think.
They're 5. Yeah, probably right. Yeah, right around there. Yeah. So they're 3 games back of Brooklyn. Brooklyn, who's playing without Kyrie Irving, first in the East. They've won 8 of their last 10, 3 in a row. We've won 3 in a row. Oh, by the way. And they've got some pretty good guys on their team. But hey, the way the Celtics are playing right now, I think they can make it quite a game. I really do. I don't know how many defensive teams the Brooklyn Nets have played that are on par with where the Celtics are right now. I don't know. I can't say that they've. I think even against a good team that'll throw them a bit. Not to say that they won't score, not to say that Durant couldn't go for 45, at a bat of an eyelash, because he's that good. But I think that's going to be a pretty interesting game Wednesday night. I think that could be, you want to say that the Celtics are on their way to, better status than what we saw in the 2-5 start, but you beat Brooklyn.
If they beat Brooklyn and they have that Laker win under their belt, even though the Lakers are kind of reeling and not awesome right now, beating Brooklyn would definitely be a statement and a legitimizer for them, and one that they need more than Brooklyn.
Right. And, weird things happen with who plays who around holidays and all that.
Yep. It could be a stinker for the Celtics too.
Absolutely.
It could be an absolute bomb.
Honestly. The team we saw over the last year, yes. But the team we saw over the last week or two, seems like we're going to get a good defensive effort. Can they score? Are they going to be fluid enough offensively? Can Jalen and Jayson get going? Can they get enough apart from
Is it in New Jersey or is it in Boston?
Well, it would be in Brooklyn too, which would be interesting if it was in New Jersey.
Oh, right. That's what I meant. Sorry. Oh my God. I just warped.
That'd be funny. That would be funny. Yeah, it's in New Jersey, and they're gonna They're gonna play it, the Brendan Burns Center.
I just mean so Kyrie can't play because he won't get vaccinated, so
right.
he's out.
Well, yeah. So they're playing. That's a home game. It's in Boston Wednesday night.
Oh, that's what I was asking. Okay, so it's in Boston.
I was just giving you a hard time.
Okay, so Kyrie can play,
but he's out. He's not. He's gone.
He's out altogether.
Yeah. They said,
I knew they were.
You're not with us.
Oh, so they just okay.
He's gone. Yeah, he's not welcome to be around the team. And he either had to be all in or all out.
Head case he is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to get traded because this is his super team. So what's he waiting for?
Well,
State of New York to stop requiring this?
You remember he went home. Remember? He was going home. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'm going home. Okay, whatever. Because he knows who the postman is and he goes to the I don't know.
I can't even, dude.
That guy is so
I just can't even give him any play. He's so
Why would you? He's
I can't do this. I gotta go.
I'll show no go.
I cannot go down. It was Ray, and then all of a sudden, look at like the negative, like you're trying to suck me in.
Look at where it brought you, right back to me. This is a Thanos situation.
Not doing it.
No, it's good.
Not doing it tonight.
Okay, so
it's a holiday week.
Let's move ahead.
Okay. Yep.
So after Brooklyn, they go to San Antonio and they go to Toronto. And that's it for the rest of the month.
Toronto sucks it right now.
They got a couple days before they play Philly in the middle of next week. So
wow, and they're not exactly in a state of like stability either. Embiid's barely healthy, and Simmons.
Right.
Embiid will be playing by that game though.
Brooklyn, Spurs, Toronto. We won't talk about the Philly game because that would be fun. That could be interesting.
I think Brooklyn could be a win. I'm skeptical, but I think it could be a win. The Toronto game's definitely a win. I think after the first loss, they're quite comfortable playing that team. And then and I think the Spurs is a win too. I mean, I don't love Pop, but I think the Spurs is a win.
They're 4-12. So yeah, we always have a hard time going down there, but I think that should be a win. The game there last year was kind of interesting. I think they'll probably lose to Brooklyn.
They got to lose one of these games because they're just doing too good right now to just not lose at all.
Yeah. It feels like,
but it's one of those. This is one of those weeks where they beat Brooklyn and we go super high, and then they lose to the Spurs
or
Toronto,
right?
Or they win they win those two games and drop Toronto. But I just think they've got a 3-game win streak. You know, 8 out of their last 11, I think, is the actual number there. And then I kind of feel like it's that middle. If they don't lose to Brooklyn, then I feel like it's the middle game because it's coming on the after Turkey Day. So if they muster it up Wednesday night, then they let down on Thursday. They get all of that whatever's in the turkey and show up asleep, and the Spurs spank them. And then they go rebound against Toronto. So I'm going to go 2-1. And I'm going to go with that. Just made too much real sense to me. San Antonio's a loss. Win Brooklyn, win Toronto, San Antonio, bizarro loss in between.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Well, I'll also say 2-1, but
you're going Brooklyn loss.
I think the Brooklyn loss. I feel like Durant he's a load.
So dominant.
He's the MVP, I think.
But everybody's going to be healthy. So if they want to,
going out the
double
road
up on him, and they got too big, so they just need somebody to put perimeter pressure on him. And then, Rob's got to be ready. Al's got to hit him with the body, and Rob's got to be ready to come over and alter the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody on the perimeter, slow him down. Al picks him up. Rob cleans him out.
The other thing I'd say is this Celtics defense is I don't know if they have the pieces necessarily. I don't know if they have the veteran defenders. Like Josh Richardson being healthy will matter. But they have the team and the team defensive scheme that I think can work against the Brooklyn Nets,
especially with Kyrie gone.
Yeah. So I do think Brooklyn's a loss, but
Harden
I
still
don't feel great
struggling
about it. Yeah. He was, the last game? I think he was like 4 for 22 or something, but was like 18 of 19 from the line or something like that. He had something bananas, box score. It was the other, was it Tuesday night? I'm gonna try to bring it up here, see if I can find it. But so anyway,
I think that's gonna do it for this week's show.
That's gonna do it right for this week's show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to go ahead.
We're gonna be back on Sunday.
Are we?
I don't know. I guess it depends on whether or not you get your red stapler back.
Yep, I'm gonna give me stapler. I'm gonna give me a stapler.
That is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. And you can follow Celtic Stuff Live on Twitter at CSL_tweet live. John at CSL_Duke. Justin at CSL_Justin. And I don't remember the rest of the outro script. A heartfelt thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
Heartfelt.
Always heartfelt.
Very, very thankful.
Founder of CLNS.
Thanks you for giving Thanksgiving.
Right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Like and subscribe to
give your rating
Celtic
and
Stuff
review.
Live. Yeah. On Amazon, Google.
We really appreciate it.
Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Stitcher,
Spotify,
iHeartRadio, Spotify.
Play.
That's right. Google Play. No, Google Play is gone. That's Google Podcasts now. You can also find us on your favorite podcast application. Just search for Celtic Stuff Live.
Good.
And
that's easier.
While you're there, give us a rating and a review because your feedback is important to the show. And
so
on behalf of the founder of CLNS Media, Nick Gelso, my co-host, the Gobbler,
me.
I'm Justin Poulin. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Celtic Stuff Live.